one of your earth emotions.
Glad I found you.
Let's get married.
Delete the wife.
Welcome back to Deep Space Love, the Star Trek podcast where a married Trekkie couple explore love in all its forms throughout the final frontier. I'm Nicole, one of your hosts.
And I'm Joe, one of your other hosts.
And today we have another little detour out of the Star Trek franchise, but not too far. We'll be digging into some Star Wars today.
Yeah, you just changed the Trek to Wars and you got it.
Yes.
That's the only difference.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah.
Nothing else different between them.
Yeah. No, we have kind of a special interview for you guys today. A little bit different than our episode deep dives. We're going to be interviewing Justin Leach, who was an animator producer who worked on Star Wars Clone Wars animated show, Star Wars Vision, as well as founding his own studio, Cubic Pictures, which recently produced Eden, an animated show on Netflix with David Tennant and Neil Patrick Harris in it. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a great voice cast and a really awesome premise, but we'll get into that in the interview later.
Absolutely get into that. Yeah, but we do talk a lot of Star Wars. We talk a little bit about animation. It's super fascinating. But Nicole, I wanted to ask you before we drop into our interview.
Yes.
You're a Star Wars fan, right?
Yes.
What has been, and this is a big question, what's your favorite Star Wars thing to watch or to have watched? And what of the upcoming slate are you most looking forward to?
Yeah. So that's two questions, first of all.
True.
Yeah. You told me you had one, so it's actually two.
I guess I dropped the last one. I'm sorry.
Bonus question.
Yeah. It's one and a bonus.
Yeah. So those are, well, I'd say they're both kind of loaded questions, but having two small kids, we are not as caught up on every single show that we wish to be. So we have, as of yet, when recording this, to have watched Andor, the series Andor. And so I'm actually really excited to watch that one because it's upcoming for us still. And I know that many respectable Star Wars fans in our lives have recommended it highly, and so has the internet, I guess you would say, as well. Most people seem to have enjoyed it very much so. So I'm really excited to see that one. I'm gonna think on the other one I'm gonna throw the same question your way.
Okay, so what was the question again? I came up with it, didn't I?
You did come up with it.
Favorite Star Wars thing to have watched.
What are you most looking forward to?
That's right. Okay. All right. Favorite thing. It's hard not to say, honestly, the original trilogy because it's just so iconic and I grew up with it. So I'm going to kind of move past that one and just say like that's a given. That being said, I've got kind of two that I might say for where we're at right now. Sneaky one. I really had a blast watching the Obi-Wan series. Actually, I know it's got a lot of flaws and there are critiques you can pull apart with it, but we watched it together and we kind of watched it really quick. And I feel like our conversations we had with it were really fun. And so I just had a really nice time watching it. Plus it was, I don't know, it's just good to see Ewan McGregor get the chance to reprise that role. I know he just adores being part of the franchise and I was just enjoying seeing him. He was obviously having a blast with it. So that was cool to see. I know it's not everyone's favorite, but the experience of watching it, I thought was really fun.
Yeah, it's your favorite, not everybody else's
exactly.
favorite.
And then I honestly would say, and this ties in with our interview, I think arguably the Star Wars, at least visual property, something that's on screen that's doing the most innovative storytelling has got to be Star Wars Visions. And I know that's maybe hindsight from having talked to Justin Leach a bit about it, but watching the series, like it's able to explore such unique, like, corners of the franchise that you don't get in some of the main storytelling places. And it's so unique in the different animation styles, the different studios, like you're giving voices to people to tell these stories that would not otherwise have the opportunities to do this. So it's really a cool piece of media that a large franchise is allowing to happen, I guess, in a sense. Like I'm really excited for that show. Like, it's cool and unique.
Yeah, the short treks were in a way sort of a version of that in the, jumping back into the
Trek world,
franchise for just a moment. But that kind of stopped short, whereas Visions, has two seasons.
2 pretty solid seasons, and I think more to come.
8 or 9 episodes each.
Yeah,
So
I was really optimistic about short treks, especially when they dug into animation, because they had
yeah,
a couple different kinds of animation or animators and styles in those episodes, and I really enjoyed them. And I'd love it if they could revisit it.
yeah. So let's just throw that out into the universe,
Yeah,
into the
universe,
galaxy.
a galaxy far, far away,
Well, we want to do this galaxy though.
and not really a long time ago either.
Yeah. Currently in this galaxy.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna jump back to, I guess, answer the question. Because I feel like your answers were both really great. So, yes. Setting aside, I would say the original trilogy. I want to give a shout out to Rogue One because,
Ooh, good choice.
I mean, I guess so. This is just like an in the moment, and like just because I want to like give it a shout out, I would say. What I love in Star Wars often fluctuates. I mean, I think that's kind of true of any franchise, really. It's hard to always pick favorites, but I just wanted to shout out Rogue One because I feel like it was. It almost feels like it was a bit of like a prequel to. It's not really the right word to say. What am I trying to say?
Not prequel, side story, side quill.
A preview.
A preview
of what was to kind of come with. I think things like Visions and the other Star Wars shows that have come out since then, and like telling stories that are not centered. It was the first one to really tell a story not centered in the Skywalker saga. And so for that, I think that it paved the way for a lot of the cool stuff we're seeing now.
That's a great point. Yeah, I would agree. I was kind of going off the quill side of your word, and I should have gone with the pre, huh?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's okay. That's why we're a team.
Yeah. All right. That's a good answer. We got to rewatch Rogue One sometime soon. That's a good one.
I'm not sure we watched it since we saw it in the theater.
I haven't seen it in a while, but it resonated though. I feel like I think a lot about it. And I guess that's a good, stepping stone to Andor too. Like that's just kind of a spinoff from that.
From what I've heard. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't answer my most looking forward to one yet though.
Oh, I'm sorry. I kind of cut you off. No, I guess we're just going back and forth.
Back and forth. That's cool. It's tough. I feel like there's a lot of really cool stuff coming out. There are some pretty cool movie announcements. I'm definitely excited for the Ahsoka show that's coming out real soon. That looks really cool. There's a book series that's kind of been ongoing, set in the High Republic era, which is like thousands of years before the prequels that I haven't started yet, but I'm really excited to check out. I think I'm a big fan of extended universe, like book novels and franchises I love. So I'm excited to see what they've been doing, and then this kind of new canon universe, since the previous Star Wars book canon has become the Legends. I'm actually really excited for some of the new film announcements. We have one that's going to be set in, I think Old Republic era. It sounds like, from James Mangold. We have one from Dave Filoni that's supposed to be tying up the shows, I think is the rumor. It might be connecting Boba Fett, Mandalorian, Ahsoka, all those together. That seems interesting, but I'm kind of like sneakily really excited for. There's one that's going to be sneakily excited for it.
I'm really like trying to imagine what that means.
Well, I don't know. It's just like I feel like it might be getting the least amount of buzz, but the one following up on episode 9 featuring like Rey forming like a new Jedi Order. I think that seems really cool. I'm excited to see the yellow lightsaber. Like more.
I know you've been excited since we saw it.
That was that's probably the coolest part. But I'm excited for that. I think that'll be really fascinating to see where they take that the future. Like there's so many of these properties are set in like, the middle of the movies or like previous to certain trilogies. This first one's like finally going forward.
It's hard not to like compare it to Trek again, where you're like, okay,
go forward.
Yeah. Sometimes there's like create the new canon. I mean, sometimes, but not that there are not corners of each franchise that are like worth exploring at different points in time and different locations within the same time frame. But
I'm just excited to see it.
Yeah, all of it.
Yeah.
Mostly all of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Joe.
Hey.
I have a question for you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think you're going to love it. What droid always takes the long way around?
Huh. What droid always takes the long way around? Oof. All right, give it to me.
R2D2.
R2D2. Oh my God. I love it. I love you. That's so good. I love puns.
You're welcome for the pun.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was a good one. I hope our listeners enjoy it too.
I know that you were like waiting. You had everything set up to record this,
Mhm.
and you were probably like, "Where the f is she?" That's what I was doing.
You were spending time researching puns.
I
No, I
was.
appreciate that. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm for that. Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it was
That's
worth
great.
it.
That's
It's
perfect.
worth
Yeah.
the wait.
Yeah.
Okay.
Should we get to the interview?
Yes, I think that
It's very Star Wars focused. We do slip in some Trek at the end, though. I
we
will say,
do.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
But
without further ado,
yes, please enjoy our interview with Justin Leach.
Justin Leach, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really glad that we can chat.
Same. I'm really excited for this. We've honestly we're normally a Star Trek podcast, but we are also big into animation and Star Wars, which we're going to get into. I know Star Trek has a couple new animated shows, which have been really fun. So I'm really excited to chat with you about some of your projects.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it.
So first off, you are I believe I was gonna say part of, but you're like founder of Quebec Pictures, right?
Yeah, it's actually pronounced cubic, and this
Cubic.
is actually a lot of people call it Quebec, so you're not the only one. So
Yeah.
and this is yeah, we're called Cubic, and it's named,
Cubic.
you know, in Eden, the show that we did. There's a cube in that film or in the series, and that was kind of like, yeah, we sort of had the idea of calling it Cubic with a Q, and so yeah,
Ah.
no, that's where that came from.
Oh, cool. And so we're gonna talk about Eden a bit, but that's your major project right now, correct?
Yeah, we're currently, so we delivered, we did Eden for on Netflix. It was a 4 episode series, which is based on my original pitch, and then we did Star Wars Vision season 1 for Lucasfilm. That was for several. I forgot the number of shorts that were in that. I think it was like
Mm-hmm.
8 or 9, I think. But yeah, so I worked on that for Lucasfilm, and then before that, I've had a lot of experience working in animation in different studios, and I lived in Japan and stuff like that. But yeah, so Cubic is relatively new. That was I did have another company called 8-Bit Pictures, which was established earlier, where I did a short film called Kick Heart, directed by Masaki Yuasa. I did like a crowdfunding anime. And but then in 2018 we changed the name to Cubic Pictures, and then we worked on Eden, and then Star Wars Visions. And then currently we are working on 3 productions at the moment.
Oh, cool.
Great expansion.
So yes, it's fun.
What draws you to genre storytelling? And I guess in particular also like the animated medium for such stories.
Well, you know, I growing up in Midwestern Michigan. You know, my father was a projectionist. He owned a movie theater,
Oh, cool.
and he owned a video store. And so I grew up in this sort of movie wonderland, and I always just really loved film and the live action film. And he also collected like animated cells from Disney, and he had a 60 millimeter projector in our basement and would show just like clips from Disney. So I kind of grew up in this environment that was surrounded by animation and film. And so I always, you know, as I was growing up, I liked Disney animation, of course, but I was like starting to get exposed to anime in the 80s and 90s, which was a great period for Japanese animation with films like Akira and Ghost in the Shell, and also Ghibli's films like Nausicaa and Castle in the Sky. And you know, I started getting exposed to those things, and I was just so inspired by that, and that was the type of animation that I wanted to always make. But when I was working in the States, you know, typically it sort of evolved into CG animation, and it was always going to be for family and kids, which is fun to work on. But I always had wanted to make that style of animation. So actually, Eden, for example, was originally a pitch at Blue Sky Studios for a feature film, and Fox was briefly developing it. It was going to be made at Blue Sky. Unfortunately, they passed on the project and decided to make the robots movie instead.
Mm.
But even from that time, I wanted to make like that style of animation, and I just really loved how Japanese animation and film like was it's more like a medium, and you know, I know we call it genre animation in the States, but it's like the way that I kind of perceive it is like just it's more very filmic, and it's not like something specifically made for children. So I love working in that. That's just something that just inspires me as a viewer, and that's just the type of projects that I always wanted to make. And so now with anime becoming so popular, it's given us opportunities and given myself and Cubic opportunities to work on projects like that.
Yeah, and we're glad for it. Yeah, exactly. animation as a medium instead of just like a specific like for kids and families, like expanding. There's so many stories to tell.
Yes, and it's funny how like they do refer to it as genre animation within the industry, like at Netflix, or animation for adults is often called genre animation, but it's kind of I always felt like that term's kind of yeah, opposite of what yeah it's supposed to be. Kind of represents that it's more of a medium and that it can be anything.
It's kind of fun that you bring that up. I actually had a question later on down the road about that exact concept of genre as like a medium rather than like, or animation as like a genre versus like medium and all that, and kind of the stuff that Guillermo del Toro has been saying lately at his like Oscar speech and all that.
Yes.
But yeah, it's I think it's fun. I think that a lot of people have been kind of doing great animated stuff, and it's been going on for a long time. But it's seeing like it seems like there's kind of more of like a public limelight on it lately, which is kind of nice to see.
Yes, yeah, I'm so happy. I feel like I've been waiting my whole life for finally like finally people are kind of getting it and yeah, so I'm so happy.
So Eden, one of your original projects, kind of tells the story of this lone human girl raised by robots in kind of a utopian, maybe dystopian
Mhm.
society, right? I'd say. Many years in the future. Could you tell us like just a little bit about this project? Kind of maybe how you mentioned it was pitched as a show, but are there plans
Mm-hmm.
to continue the story?
So yeah, Eden was basically yeah, at the time when I originally came up with the idea, this was around 98. I had just gone to Japan for the first time. I worked on a short film called Bunny, which won an Academy Award. I was just an
Congrats.
animator. Oh, thank you. I didn't win it myself. Chris Wedge, the director, won, but I was an animator on that, and so I used that as a little sort of a golden ticket to go to Japan and visit all these different studios. And so we organized a little trip, and I got to meet Hayao Miyazaki. We went to Studio
Wow.
Ghibli. I mean, it was just like the dream. It was like oh man,
Yeah.
it was so cool. Went to IG, met Oshii Mamoru, and I built a lot of relationships, and I saw Michael Arias as well, who was working on a film called Tech on Concrete. He's a director of that film, and so it was such an inspiring trip. And I came back, and I was like, I want to make this type of an animation. And so, you know, at the time, I think, you know, there's a lot of news about global warming and environmental concerns, and I was always intrigued by the idea of evolutionary artificial intelligence like that over time got smarter and smarter and could eventually reach a high level of intelligence. And so I just thought it'd be kind of intriguing to tell the story of, you know, I think the pitch that I put on the board was at Blue Sky when we did the Pitch Fest was like in a world devoid of human life, a pair of robots discover a human baby. So I thought that was kind of interesting hook to kind of build a story around. And so from that point, that was kind of it was also kind of meant to be sort of like a three men and a baby type of story where, you know, you're new. It's like being a parent for the first time. You know, there's no instructions. You're trying to like figure stuff out. You're like not sure if you're doing it right. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And I like science fiction and robots. I was always inspired by those stories. There's a story I like, for example, called I think it's called The Order to Stop Operations or something like this. It's by Katsuhiro Otomo, who did Akira. I think it was a short film for one of the anthologies, and I don't remember off the top of my head if it was yeah, it's either Robot Carnival or Neo Tokyo, but I gotta gotta check. But anyway, one of those anthologies. It's really cool. So I was inspired by that, and I just wanted to kind of tell a human story through these two robots that raise a child and how that changes them and makes them more human. And how, in the end of the day, I feel like kind of as machines, you know, if we can reach a certain level of intelligence there isn't much difference between a human and a robot. It's just the mechanics by which we think or the chemistry. I see humans as sort of like machines. We're just a different type of machine. So I just thought that was kind of an interesting concept to explore.
Definitely.
Yeah, super fascinating. Plus, it's got a phenomenal voice cast too.
Yeah.
Oh, I know they did. Oh man, they did such a good job. Both the Japanese cast and the American cast. I mean, yeah, it's so amazing. You know, we had Neil Patrick Harris and Rosario Dawson and Ruby Rose Turner and Dave Tennant. I mean, just incredible. Yeah, incredible cast. I was very pleasant. You know, I didn't Netflix handled most of the localization, so I wasn't too involved in that process, but I was really happy with how that came out at the end. And you know, I think like in terms of future Eden, I think like certainly, the story was designed. There were some things that we didn't talk about in the first season. One was like there's Eden 1, there's Eden 0, there's Eden 1, there's Eden 2 and Eden 3. And the story takes place at mostly around Eden 3. And Eden 1 was kind of the first attempt at building the perfect society for humans and after the robots had repaired the earth and brought it back to its healthier state. And then there's a whole story about 2, which we haven't talked about at all. And there's also things like Sarah's parents. How did she end up there? That's something that we want to explore, and just sort of like further developing the relationship between the parents and Sarah and her just growing up and growing up in a world of robots. And then if there was a new season, it would probably deal with what happens after the humans wake up and how does the world change and what will happen when the two come together. So that's something that I would love to explore. I think like unfortunately it probably didn't get enough attention from fans, probably
Mm.
to get people motivated enough to make more. But certainly, yeah, I mean, I would be very
Mm.
happy to do more if someone wanted me to. But yeah, I don't think it's in the cards, but we'll see. Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah, there's so many different interesting, storylines before and after to explore, like you mentioned.
Yeah, like the fall of like how did humanity fall, or what was it like when, things fell apart, and because we are facing these global, we're seeing the earth change today, like all these heat waves
Hmm.
and all these terrible storms. You can really feel like it's starting to happen, and you can imagine in 10 or 20 years it's probably going to be pretty uncomfortable. And so like, yeah, what happens when we start running out of resources? What's going to happen to all the governments around the world and the countries and the wars that will be fought over resources? And I thought that was kind of interesting concept to explore too.
Let's see. So pivoting over to Visions, one of the cool things about Visions is exploring all the different aspects of that universe from different points of time within the time frame. Were there any canon limitations that the creators have when making those shorts?
Well, I think the framework was laid out by the executives at Lucasfilm, James Waugh, Jackie Lopez, Josh Rhimes, and I think from the very beginning, their mission was really to not be limited by canon and allow them to express themselves in however they want. So I think they were encouraged to explore, come up with new ideas, new worlds, new characters, and I think our job was to kind of help find those people that had a passion for Star Wars that wanted to tell a story, and then give them help, enable them to do that, working with the Lucasfilm team.
It was a really awesome project, yeah. And it
Oh, it
got
was
off.
like my dream. I mean, I was like, oh gosh, I've always wanted to make Star Wars and anime. Like, I just always felt that the two would be so right for each other. And if anything, yeah, I mean, it's just, I think if anything could bring more people to anime, it would be Star Wars and anime. Like I think it has the ability to show people that anime isn't just kind of like a stereotype. It's a medium, and there's
Mhm.
so many cool different expressions of it. And you might actually, if you haven't watched anime, you might watch and be like, actually that's pretty good. I didn't realize that's not what my impression was about anime. So I think like that made me really happy that those creators could take a stab at it, and it can also show the world like how cool and how creative and original the talent is there. And so yeah, I thought it was a really inspiring project to work on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. I guess coming on from that, like, how did you get to work with Lucasfilm? You worked on the Clone Wars prior to this, right?
Yeah, so I had back in 2005, I believe, I was asked to join Lucasfilm as a CG supervisor, and George Lucas was making a new studio. It was called Lucasfilm Animation, and they wanted to make the Clone Wars series. And and it was actually at Skywalker Ranch,
Mm.
and so I was like, yes, I will definitely do that.
Mhm.
So I moved up to San Francisco and worked at Skywalker Ranch. I was like one of the first of 7 employees there. It was even before Dave Filoni got there, and I just remember that feeling of, I mean, on one sense, you're super excited. Oh my gosh, I'm at Skywalker Ranch. This is incredible. George Lucas has just walked by me. Like, I can't believe I'm here. The Skywalker Ranch. There's this like, it's just a valley of dreams. And on the other hand, you're like, oh my gosh, how are we going to make a Star Wars TV show from scratch? And like it was so intimidating, and there's just so much to figure out. Like on every level from a technical perspective, a logistical, like building a pipeline, building like, there's just departments, and it was really, really intimidating. And so, but it was amazing experience. Dave Filoni would eventually join a little bit later. And what's really cool, well, one of the really cool things about being there at that time was I got to see Dave and creating like Ahsoka, like for the first time, I got to
Wow.
see the first like Ahsoka sketch, and when that was coming out, and just oh man, it was so cool, and just being able, George giving us and giving Dave and everyone that opportunity to try to build something like that, and it was really hard. We had a lot of hard lessons in the first and second seasons, I think, and that's natural, I think, given the scale. And but yeah, it was just it was such a amazing experience. And then I would later move into different positions after I got there, and I would later settle in working in the story department, like as a technical, sort of like I guess you might call it a technical artist. We'd basically work with the story artists and help build tools, and we were doing a lot of development around this application called ZViz, which was their pre-visualization software. So like ILM has an application called, oh my gosh, it's been a while, so I don't remember. But uh, well, anyway, they have like a 3D application that they use for their production, and George said, let's make a pre-visualization tool using that as our basis, and then we'll make a new interface to make it easier for story artists and creators to make storyboards. So he really like, and I think this was even before a lot of the digital virtual production stuff was happening. George was really ahead of his time, and he knew where it was going, and he knew where it was going with television. I mean, that was one of the things like I was always amazed by him, is his vision and his ability to see like where things are going. I could clearly see it, and I was always like super impressed. So it was fun to be like pioneering these new techniques and working with creators, and like it was a lot of fun. But basically, they would develop these kind of virtual production techniques where they would have a previous software, and they would build the assets inside the computer. They build like a set, like a location, and then the storyboard artist would just go into that set and location. They start basically moving the characters. Okay, walk from here to here, and then attach the gun to the hand, and then let's move the camera over here, and let's add another shot over here. And it was like shooting on location, and then they would do that process, and they just send it to editorial, and then editorial would make, Dave and George would meet in editorial, and they would like look at the cut, and they would make adjustments, and they'd send it back to the story artist. It was a really, really cool process, different than like the Pixar process, which is very hand drawn only, and then they don't do anything until they look at the hand drawn storyboards. So it was really cool to see that, and also just see Dave. He was on the Avatar: The Last Airbender at the time, and I remember the producer was asking me like, do you think it's a good idea to hire such a fan, that that's of Star Wars? Because he was someone that would wear like a Plo Koon costume to a convention or something. He was clearly a huge, huge fan, and I was always like, yeah, I think it's good. I mean, I think fans appreciate that there's a director there that understands the things that they like, and so I was always, yeah, very supportive of it. And so it's just really cool to see him go and become so successful and making like live action stuff, and then seeing his characters that he was working on actually starting to walk on the live action screen. It's like it's kind of surreal, but really, really just generally, yeah, super happy for him and all the things he's accomplished.
That's so cool to hear. It's Fascinating. Kind of a side question to some of that. Working on like the Clone Wars series, were you a fan of the Tartakovsky series before that? The one I know it's not canon
Yeah,
technically, but
yeah. We were definitely looking at that in the initial sort of maquettes that we made. There's
Mhm.
a Darren Marshall was a very, very talented. He was our sculptor that was working on the. So we did like these clay sculpts of. I wonder if I have one. I actually have. Yeah, actually I have an Anakin back here. Hold on, let me. I know you can't see it since it's a podcast, but I can show you
it's
guys.
okay.
But yeah, this is the Clone Wars. We kind of started with this, and we were looking at like we were trying to make it different and unique, but we were definitely looking at that as an inspiration. And as we were trying to figure it out, one of the other things that we did early on was I did a when I was working in Japan before that, I worked on a film called Ghost in the Shell 2 Innocence. And on that film, I saw them do this really cool technique where they would do a hand like a hand painted background, and then they would build 3D objects that match the painting, and then they'd project the painting on the 3D objects, and then they'd move the camera slightly so it looks like this really cool 3D. Like it makes everything kind of pop out and makes it look realistic. And so I thought it might be cool if we did something like that for Clone Wars. And so I took Jabba's Palace. I took like Dave was talking about how much he liked Ralph McQuarrie's work, and so I took one of the Ralph McQuarrie paintings and did that same technique that I did for Ghost in the Shell 2. And we had like this really cool like 3D pan in of on Jabba's Palace, and it was like I think it was kind of one of those moments like that's pretty cool. I think maybe we should try to do more of that. So that kind of I think was one little part of this idea of maybe making it more painterly, like a painterly look. And I still think to this day, even when you look at projects like Arcane, I sort of feel like Clone Wars is kind of one of the early prototypes of that style. And there's always limitations in television in terms of how much time you have and how
Mhm.
far you can take it. But I feel like that approach really, I felt like we were kind of prototyping that style a little bit early on. But yeah, that was kind of like how uh, yeah, that was sort of like how it kind of evolved as we were figuring it out in the beginning.
Cool.
Yeah, it's really really fun. And then like so I've known Dave for many years, and I still even though he's kind of become super famous guy, like he's kind of like the new George Lucas, I still just remember him as the guy that showed up to help make the Clone Wars from Avatar. Like that's my memory of him. So it's just kind of yeah, it's kind of surreal all everything that's changed since then. But yeah, it's cool to see the fans loving the Clone Wars, and I think people really got into that show in the subsequent seasons. So I'm really glad that took off. And then so yeah, so and another thing actually that's interesting with Clone Wars, and I don't think many people know this, but early on, Dave, George is also a big fan of Japan and Akira Kurosawa, and Dave is also a huge Japan fan. He loves Godzilla, and he loves anime. And we kind of got along very well in the beginning because he really understands Japanese animation. He knows the creators. He knows a lot about history of anime, and so one thing that he wanted to do early on was to bring on some creators from Japan to work on the Clone Wars. So we actually hired a artist named Atsushi Takeuchi, who was a mechanical designer from Ghost in the Shell. He worked at Production IG, and so I helped kind of introduce them and to Lucasfilm, and then they ended up hiring him to direct an episode. He did some early designs of Grievous, the battle droids, super battle droids. He did the ship called Malevolence, and sort of brought that anime aesthetic to the Clone Wars. And then so it was really neat. So there was like a long time connection between Lucasfilm and working with anime studios. I think that was maybe a little first step. And then when I was when I reconnected with Lucasfilm, and at the time they happened to be working on this anthology project, and so they invited me to work on it, and I was like, yes, of course, I would love to help bring anime to Star Wars.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was like a dream come true.
How involved are you guys in the stories that get told and choosing the studios, or yeah, I guess either or?
So yeah, what we do is so we have like Cubic, our company has lots of relationships in Japan. We know a lot of,
Hmm.
I've been working I started at IG in 2001, a long time ago. So I have a lot of relationship there. So basically, what we'd work closely with the Lucasfilm team, and we would say, here are some studios that we like, that we recommend, that we know, and then they would we would present information about each studio, and then they would decide like, okay, this studio looks good, let's go with this one. So we would sort of work with them to create the list of studios, and then we would act as sort of like a communications hub between the Lucasfilm team and all the studios, and we would be tracking everything from the schedule to production, helping out with agreements. So it's kind of like we are Kaneko was a producer on the show, and I was a co-executive producer. So we are basically ensuring that everything gets done, and that the information is flowing back and forth properly. The notes are getting translated. We also have like translation service, people that do all the translations. So we're basically like an apparatus that can plug into any studio that allows Hollywood to work with them, because most studios in Japan have really little English translation resources, and they're just not used to working with Western companies as well. Sometimes they do, but there are companies that do that almost exclusively, like Polygon Pictures. But still, there's we act as sort of like this bridge to the production and the team at Lucasfilm. But yeah, it's very complicated. Like, it's hard to do. It's so hard because, like, imagine, when you're doing a single project, typically, there's they're kind of boring producer like things like contracts, for example. You have to make a contract with the studio. Well, there's typically that process takes, quite a couple months, because there's a little bit of back and forth. There's questions. We have to translate it into Japanese, and then you multiply that by the number of studios.
Yeah.
It's really hard. So we've had that forced us to kind of develop an internal system of like how we can track all these various communications with the different studios and the translations. And so we had to develop some approaches to handle that. So yeah, it's complicated but fun. I love it though.
It's good.
Rewarding.
Yes,
Um,
rewarding. Yes.
Kind of from the other side of that, like we've been currently watching through season 2 of Visions. Were you more involved in season 1, or are you in both?
I wasn't actually involved in season 2. I was just early on a little bit. I had I had some chats about it potentially
Sure.
being involved, but yeah, I didn't end up getting involved in that particular project. But
Okay. Did you watch
there,
it?
I did. Yes, I did.
We
Yeah. What do you
we were
think?
we were th- we were liking it so far. We were really like the first episode, the one
Right
with
out the
the
gate.
yeah, the one I think it's called Sith, where the woman was renouncing her Sith ways and trying to escape like the Jedi Sith dichotomy and use the Force powers for like painting and creativity. And it was such a cool, like, I feel like that's just like a good illustration of like what Visions can do in telling
Yeah.
these kind of different kinds of stories that you wouldn't get from maybe the movies or the shows normally. Is there perhaps maybe in season 1, or perhaps if you watched as a fan in season 2, is there a specific story that resonated with you a lot?
Oh yeah, it's so hard because they're all so special. It's like, yeah, even with season 1 and season 2, picking one favorite or couple, it's
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 hard.
always so hard because it's so different, and it's a bit of a smorgasbord. And I think for everyone else, I think one of the nice things about it is like you can find your favorite short in there, in either season. And I think for me, it's funny you mentioned Sith, because I actually know Rodrigo Blas quite well. Yeah, he
Oh,
used he used to work. He was an animator at Blue Sky when I was at Blue Sky back in, this is like early 2000s, even before I went to Japan. And so yeah, I've known him for quite a long time. He was actually even at my wedding in Kyoto.
Oh.
So but yeah, so yeah, he's someone I love his work. And he has a studio called El Giri in Madrid. And yeah, I thought that he really did a great job. I liked Our Song a lot by Triggerfish. That was the last one. That had a very kind of slightly Ghibli vibe, but I also liked the yeah, like I like the look and feel, and the animation was really good. I like the story in that one. I love the Aardman one, but because I'm a big fan of Aardman, and also am a parent, I think that one's kind of for parents, like maybe I don't
Hmm.
know, yeah, I'm not sure how younger people would feel about that. Sure. But yeah, I love the animation. So it's hard to pick, but yeah, because then I remember as I'm thinking about it, I'm like, oh, and that one, and oh, and that one. So yeah, it's hard to pick, but those are the ones that kind of maybe it would come to mind first.
With so much being explored in Visions, is there an element or era of Star Wars of the universe that you'd like to see explored more that maybe hasn't been yet?
Ah, yeah. Well, you know, yeah, there are things, yes, I would love to see more of. Like, but I think they've already kind of started doing them. Like, I know that they announced, I think, is it Dawn of the Jedi? I think it is. I was always personally very interested in the idea of how the early formation of the Jedi and the lightsabers and how that all came together has always been something interesting to me. But I have no knowledge of the show or what they're doing, but I know that it's called Dawn of the Jedi, so I assume they're gonna talk about that. So yeah, that's something that interests me. I also just like yeah, just one thing I do like about Visions is just that I think my favorite shows right now from Lucasfilm are actually Andor and Visions actually,
Mhm.
Hmm.
because they explore the universe of Star Wars and new characters and it's not necessarily uh, I just love seeing characters in this world and meeting new characters, new adventures. So I think for me, I'm just personally attracted to those type of projects where it's something entirely new.
Feels
I
like
think
those make the universe feel bigger too. Like I know
Hmm.
there's like a centralized story with like the Skywalker saga and all that, but these kinds of visions, especially, I think is bringing something really unique to the table. It just makes it feel like such a bigger universe.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I feel like after watching Visions and Andor, I'm like, I kind of want to, that's what I really like seeing that world getting built out even further and making more history and things to just dive into and learn about. And yeah, I think that's really cool.
Just kind of a follow up to that. I mean, you mentioned Visions and Andor being kind of the favorite of the series. Do you have a favorite of the films at all yet? That's a
Oh,
hard question.
the Star Wars live action films?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, well, I think when the first Star Wars came out, I was probably like too young to appreciate it in the
Mhm.
theater. So I think my first memory of like a Star Wars movie is Empire Strikes Back, going
Mm.
to the theater. So certainly the first three, I mean, episode 4, 5, and 6, are probably my favorite, most nostalgic ones. That being probably New Hope or Empire Strikes Back. Probably if I have to be one of those two in terms of my favorite, it's hard to pick, but I probably lean towards New Hope because that's the first one. That's kind of where it all started, and I think there was just so much. All the stars came together on that one, and just the fact that it was so groundbreaking at the time. I also when the prequels came out, I'll say that I kind of rode on the bandwagon of not liking it very much. But as I get older and look back upon it, I actually think that George was kind of ahead of its time when he was making it. I think there are maybe some things that you could probably, that could maybe be adjusted slightly, but still, I think it's very interesting type of story, and I like that it was a different. It wasn't just like a copy of the first, 4, 5, and 6. It was actually an interesting. I was fascinated by just the fall of a government, of a civilization to the dark side, and how all the politics and intrigue, and how even in today in American modern American politics, you see a lot of similar things happening,
Hmm.
which is like I was like, wow, man, he was way ahead of his time. He was like calling it out well before it was happening, and it's like here we are. So I just again, that's like how I feel towards George. Is like I'm like so much respect for his vision and seeing things. And I think, one of the hard parts about being ahead of your time is that no one in your current time realizes it. So like you might come out with something and then people might not like it, or like there's Blade Runner, you know, there's examples of movies that didn't do too well when they came out, but when people look at back on them later, they're like, wow, actually that was pretty good. So I think I do like the prequels more than I did at the time when I first saw them.
I'm with you on that. I feel like prequels, I think I really enjoyed them when they first came out, seeing them in theaters and the spectacle, and then like there's the discourse that brings it down a little bit. But like going back and rewatching it now, I think there's a lot of like really great moments to pick up, especially like from a technical side, like the motion capture of like Ahmed Best as Jar Jar Binks is was pretty
Yes.
pioneering at the time too.
Yes, yeah, yeah. All the stuff he was doing, I think was really, really ahead of his time. The newer movies, I feel like I want to maybe give more time, maybe
Yeah.
like give it some more time to maybe I'll look back at it in like 5 or 10 years and see how I feel about it, just so that I give it a correct opinion about it. I think sometimes you have to let the experience simmer and maybe look back at it. But yeah, I mean, like I think it's hard. I think it's a big challenge to try to capture that. A movie with such high expectations, and it's hard. Such a hard challenge. I can't imagine what that was like trying to figure all that stuff out. But yeah, I mean, I'm still so yeah. I'll have to think about it later in life and look back on it and see how I feel. But for now, I just yeah, I really love the obviously the first movie, since that had the biggest impact on me as a kid. It was just like, whoa. I think for a lot of people that you also work with at Lucasfilm, they had kind of that Star Wars moment in their lives where it just impacted them so deeply, and that they had always that they wanted to even go into movies. Like a lot of the creators in Visions had mentioned that, like when we were talking with them, how Star Wars was, the movie that inspired them to get into animation, that wanted them to become filmmakers. And so it was really cool to see that sort of cycle of inspiration happening, and also with Kurosawa and the West and the East, and it's really cool to see that happening. I remember when one time I was in I was in I was on a trip to Japan, and Kathleen Kennedy was there visiting some of the studios, and the creators were just in such awe of her, and like they had like one of the directors had an ET program from the 80s that she wanted her to sign, and it was just amazing to see the creators in Japan just so happy, and they were just lighting up because her movies meant so much to them growing up. It was really touching to see, and one of the things that makes me happy about the stuff that I do and the work that I do is like bringing the two cultures together. It just makes me really, it's very satisfying.
Absolutely. So we like digging into lots of different sci-fi properties and space franchises. But we do tend to be more of a Star Trek podcast. So we have to ask, are you a Trek fan at all? Or other franchises or sci-fi properties that are on your geek card?
Oh yes, yes, definitely Star Trek. I love Star Trek. I watched obviously the original Star Trek series on television was before my time, but as I was growing up, my father was also involved in a film program at Michigan State University, and some of the cast from Star Trek would actually come to MSU, like Leonard Nimoy and William Shatner. So I got to meet some of the original cast, and then
Dang.
I watched, Star Trek: The Motion Picture, Wrath of Khan, Search for Spock. Like I watched all of the movies. It kind of once it started getting to Generations, or like there was a time where I kind of maybe fell off a little bit, but then I got back on the horse when they got the new the J.J. Abrams Star Trek. But I watched Next Generation. I love the new series, especially Picard season 3 and Strange New Worlds. I love season 1, but I think I love season 2 even more. I think I love that show just right now. Yeah, I have so much love for that show. Other things I'm watching, or I mean, franchises that I love, I mean, are like the Aliens franchise. Like I'd say like Aliens, and then I am kind of I think there's a kind of I think Prometheus and Covenant are kind of interesting. They're a little strange in the context of all the movies, maybe, but like there's something still kind of interesting about it to me, even though it's not my favorite. But yeah.
I have another podcast actually. It's called Frankenstein's Podcast, where we do like monster movies and stuff. And we're doing a deep dive in the alien movies like right now. So
Oh,
like,
really?
yeah, so we were
I
doing
just
episodes. Yeah.
I just watched Prometheus or Covenant yesterday, and I was watching
Wow.
Aliens last night. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, I mean, I remember seeing Aliens in the theater. I mean, that was so amazing. Like, it was, yeah, it kind of blew me away. James Cameron, it was just like,
Wow.
it's like that feeling where you're like, no, don't go down. Are you crazy? Don't go down that elevator. And like, you're surrounded by aliens, and all you have is that gun. Like, it was like the most, like, it just felt like, man, she's brave. It was like, yeah, that was Aliens is very much more psychological, and it's such a different feel than Aliens. But yeah, but I like them both. Like Terminator, also other franchise I love
Yeah.
it. The Terminator franchise, Predator, kind of the classic 80s and 90s, which I grew up on. I'm a big fan of. But yeah, Aliens is awesome. That's cool.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, that's fun. Um, I suppose we don't want to take too much of your time, so we'll wrap it up here. But is there any like I know you can't talk about probably like Star Wars future stuff, but is there any like future projects that you would like to mention or that you can mention that we should look out for?
So far nothing has been announced yet. I'm currently working on 3 productions at the moment,
Yeah.
but
Mhm.
they're all very, very cool. And I wish, yeah, I can't wait to tell people, but yeah, no, so far nothing's been announced yet, so I can't say anything, but we are busy working on stuff and projects, and so yeah, there will be more stuff coming out. We're also, just as a company, we're looking at trying to also um, get into production, animation production. So like, we've mostly been producing stuff and working with existing studios. So we want to look into the possibility of actually, producing animation. And I'm just even though I've done a lot of 3D animation, which I love and respect deeply, I love 2D animation. I love, there's something kind of like, maybe it's because it's so hard to make 3D animation look like 2D animation. I just want to draw it instead. It's like, so yeah, so we're looking into that as a possibility, and we're just right now trying to figure out our next slate of productions. But we have like, I'm based in New York, but we also have our company in Tokyo. So we've got about 10 people within the company in total. But yeah, we want to try to, like, yeah, take it to the next stage for Cubic, and keep moving forward. And we're also launching a new website. Shameless self promotion, but no,
Oh no, go
we're
ahead.
yeah, we're launching a new website at the end of this month. So I'm not sure that we don't have like a specific launch date, but yeah, we'll have a new website which looks a lot better than our current website. So yeah, as we grow and do more projects, hopefully this will help get more visibility on what we do.
And is there any social media accounts
Uh,
for Cubic or yourself personally that people can?
yeah, actually, yes, that's a good idea. Actually, we have a Cubic Pictures Twitter account, Instagram account. I should know the Twitter handle, and my social media manager is gonna kill me, but
It's okay. I can find it and put in our notes
yeah,
too.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah. It's on
Yeah.
my personal Twitter is DB5007, which is named after the Aston Martin DB5, which is my
Mm.
favorite car of the James Bond series, and then 007, which I watched a lot of James. I like James Bond movies too. Yeah, so that's why I'm called that. And then I think it's like Cubic. It's either Cubic underscore pictures or Cubic Pictures, all one word, for Twitter and Instagram.
All right, yeah, we'll
Uh,
find it. We'll
Oh, for
yeah,
get
sure.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. Cool, cool. But yeah, like, hopefully, yeah, once we make a new announcements or future projects, if you ever want to talk again, happy to chat and tell you about those projects when they come out. But yeah, there's some exciting things in the works. I can't wait to share with the
Absolutely.
world. Yeah,
Awesome.
Yeah, we'll stay in
awesome.
touch.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, it was really nice talking to you guys.
Yes, thank
Yeah,
you
thank you
for your
so
time.
much.
Well, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was super fun.
Thank you again to Justin for joining us and letting us ask him some questions.
Yeah, it was truly an enlightening experience and a very fun conversation. Thank you so much to Justin.
Thank you all for listening. We'll be back next month with some more Trek for you all. And if you haven't yet, feel free to rate and review us wherever you get your podcasts and follow us on Twitter at DSLovePod. Until next time, love long and prosper.